How's it going, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Season 3 of The Wheel of Time. Honestly, what a delight it's been as someone that went into this series initially back in Season 1, as somebody that did not read the books. I just got enveloped in the world and the community, and I had a great time talking about this show with you guys. It's a shame that there's not really that much of a marketing push anymore for Amazon, which is something I'm going to circle back to later on. Now, I have seen all of Season 3 of The Wheel of Time. Fortunately, for once, they actually sent all the episodes in advance. Usually, it was only a couple at a time. Because I have the full scope of what Season 3 has to offer, how the journey expands this season, takes these characters in some unexpected but very exciting directions of growth. Right off the bat, pretty much, Season 3 lets you know things are gonna get pretty crazy this season with one of the most insane, cool, brutal battles in the White Tower involving Liandrin, the Aes Sedai. The first 15 minutes or so of Season 3 is some of the best stuff I've seen in a very long time. Visuals alone look so amazing. I was worried that maybe they blew their entire VFX budget on just this opening. Season 3 continues to truly raise the bar and how it continued to weave together a riveting story continuing from the conclusion of Season 2. Even outside of the epic battle that opens Season 3, you really do feel like the stakes are at its all-time high. Now that Rand is beginning to learn his duties as the Dragon Reborn and wanting to prove himself along this journey he goes on with Moiraine, Lan, and Egwene. Their journey does take up the main focus of Season 3, traveling to various different places, meeting some wise characters along the way, along with a lot of different characters trying to hunt down Rand and stop him from doing anything. Honestly, it kind of made me start to feel bad for Rand as we cycled through all of these different characters, just how many of them want to kill him or cage him or pretty much do anything they can to just stop him in one way or another. A major detail that I greatly appreciated for Season 3 is the fact that there are far less storylines to account for compared to Season 1 and Season 2. I already mentioned Rand's group, but then you have Perrin and Loial, Nynaeve and Elaine with the occasional addition of Mat to the group. Not only are these pairings beneficial because the pairings themselves I think are pretty great, it just makes things a lot easier to follow instead of having them all scattered about, having to shift between them all every single episode. Hopefully I'm not the only one that praises this. Not that the show ever looked bad by any means, but you can definitely tell the production value improved for Season 3. The costuming continues to be gorgeous, ranging from the regal outfits for royalty down to the Aiel and the Shaido. The majority of the time also you can tell that they shot on location. They make sure to let you know with these sweeping shots of gorgeous mountainous landscapes they walk through, the miles and miles of desert. Even some of these new locations that we explore in Season 3 I was genuinely impressed by. One of my favorites probably was Ruidia, and Rand having to walk through all of these columns, which that sequence was pretty trippy, by the way. Someone that's been fairly neutral towards Rand at this point. I haven't loved this character, but I haven't disliked him either. I think Season 3 is when I think a lot of people are going to appreciate Rand a whole lot more, as he does do a lot more maturing in Season 3 as a character. He shoulders a lot of responsibilities, with many depending on him and these prophecies. His arc he goes on this season, trying to prove himself to everyone, is compelling. Even if you factor in that worrisome element to Rand in the fact that the more he channels, the more likely he is to go mad. That concern is raised a whole lot more the deeper we go into the season by Egwene with the things that she sees in the arches. Speaking of Egwene, thankfully in Season 3 it seems like we are exploring a little bit more of the relationship between her and Rand compared to previous seasons. Unfortunately, she is haunted by the trauma that she endured last season, but what drew the most interest for me was learning about the possibility of her being a Dreamwalker Aes Sedai and learning how to protect herself. While initially I was bummed out because Nynaeve is one of my favorite characters in this show and she's not able to channel, I was concerned on what exactly we're going to have her do in the show because she can't channel, and I actually quite like the storyline they gave her here with Elaine, pairing the two of them up to investigate the Black Aja. Never did I think we were going to have a sort of detective situation with these two, but I thought it was a lot of fun. They have some good cop, bad cop type dynamics as they investigate the Black Aja. Part of it could be due to the fact that they made such a lasting impression in the opening of Season 3, but any time that I saw the Black Aja on screen, I was nervous. The evil things they get up to with Liandrin definitely get pretty dark at times. Some of the different storylines do traverse material that we've already kind of seen before, like Perrin, for example. His efforts here are noble, returning home and fighting back against the White Cloak while preparing his people for inevitable battle against the Trollocs. Like I said though, it kind of feels like more or less similar to what we've usually seen Perrin get up to, although that battle against the Trollocs in the latter half of Season 3 is pretty epic. Moiraine is one of those characters I've always found so interesting, and that continues on into Season 3. Rosamund Pike continues to deliver a fantastic performance as Moiraine. It felt like to me in Season 3, Moiraine Moiraine's going through quite a lot in sort of a transitional phase. Her romantic life between her and Suan has kind of taken an unfortunate turn, so she's trying to deal with those feelings, but also her dynamic with Rand has evolved. Much to her chagrin, he's not really all that receptive to her advice anymore. He's kind of trying to do his own thing. Up until this point, we have seen Moiraine try to be a good mentor to Rand, lead him on the right path, but season 3, I feel like, is the biggest example of there being a power struggle between her and Lanfear's influence over Rand. Many times throughout the show, when Rand tries to gain advice, it definitely gives off the vibes of Rand is there, and Moiraine and Lanfear are sort of the devil and angel on his shoulder trying to pull him in certain directions. Nevertheless, the intrigue for Moiraine as a character lies heavily in her purpose and Rand's journey when she learns a little bit more about her possible future than she probably should have. And that leads her down a path where she may have to make some difficult decisions, and hopefully she makes the right one. Among this entire group, the one that I've always felt the worst about is Mat. It seems like every single season of this show so far to this point, Mat has had some debilitating thing causing him pain. And that again is still the case in season 3. He's still dealing with a lot of trauma. In between all of that though, he still is very funny and charming. Eventually over the course of the season, however, he is tasked with some pretty exciting things, even getting a cool fight sequence or two in the process. There's a ton of characters to go around in this show, so there are some of them that kind of get the short end of the stick. That description to me kind of perfectly describes Lan in season 3. Oftentimes Lan's occasionally just pops in to do things like training with Rand, sparring with Aviendha once, and obviously he has discussions with Moiraine here and there. Something that is always exciting about new seasons is the addition of new characters to the cast, and there are quite a handful of them in season 3, but there's certainly ones that are a little bit higher than others that I want to mention and highlight. Being someone that appreciates anytime I get Shura Aghdashloo on screen, I have to say she is a great addition to the cast as Elaida. Now, I'm not as fond of her disdain towards Rand and her desire to cage him. She brings a lot of intrigue with her character as this eclectic personality. Even later on in the season unleashes some pretty shocking moments. Plus, also, I gotta talk about Elaine's mother, Queen Morghast. What a fascinating, intimidating figure. Learning through flashbacks how she claimed the throne was pretty rough. Her inclusion into the story brought a lot of intrigue exploring the political angles in the Wheel of Time, and the alliance between the White Tower and Andor. Not only that, but her inclusion, I think, did some great development for Elaine as a character in season 3. Elaine having these discussions with her mother made me like her character a whole lot more. How she's conflicted with the desires her mother forces upon her versus her own desires and wanting to shape her own path and become an Aes Sedai. Though we only got a quick glimpse of her in the finale of season 2, I gotta say, Moghedien, now that she's a full-force character in season 3, she creeps me out. I mean, there's no other way I can describe it. She's very freaky. Any sequence she appears in season 3, oftentimes lurking in the shadows, not openly confronting characters. I was always on my toes on what exactly she's capable of doing. Honestly, a lot of the stuff with the Forsaken in season 3 is pretty exciting. Whether they're directly trying to take down Rand or posing as other people entirely to gather intel. Oftentimes in season 3, you never truly feel like you're safe. You're unsure if these people are dark friends or they're posing as somebody else, or who potentially in these characters are actually Black Aja in disguise. Out of this bunch of characters though, I think my favorite still, much like in season 2, is Lanfear. A lot of her scenes talking with Rand bring complicated feelings, largely in part thanks to the fact that she's so good at playing all the different sides. So a lot of the time you're unsure if her true motivations really benefit herself or Rand. Now I consider myself a pretty big fan of the fantasy genre, but I have to admit, season 3 injects a whole lot of new lore into the series, and as someone that's going into this as a fan of the series, having not read the books, it kind of is a daunting task at times. Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the ideas presented, mostly through Rand's discovery to better prepare himself for his responsibilities as the Dragon Reborn. There's just certain segments in these episodes, as far as the lore, that it took me a little bit to fully understand, rewatching, I should say. One of those episodes being episode 4, when Rand and Moiraine enter Rhuidean and the lore dumping gets super intense as we're flipping through thousands of different turns on the wheel with Moiraine, mixed with Rand walking through many different lives of his ancestors. Basically what I'm saying is, the more lore we got as the episodes progressed in season 3, I did have to take some more breaks to process everything, all the info that's being thrown at me. It's certainly a series that doesn't try whatsoever to hold your hand trying to explain things to you. That aspect, though, to be honest, is something that makes me nervous about the future of this show. Honestly, it's kind of a mixture of things. I have to commend the people behind the Wheel of Time on making a fantasy show that doesn't shouldn't try to cater too hard to the casual audience goer, but that also is an aspect that makes me worried about the future of The Wheel of Time as a series on Amazon. Considering that there are so many more books to adapt after season 3, I worry that the viewership numbers won't be there for them to warrant to continue on. There are a plethora of different fantasy shows we've seen over the years that have a hard time getting past season 2 and season 3. One of the more recent examples for me was Shadow and Bone. Even though it was a really highly rated show with good viewership, Netflix canceled after season 2. And in this annoying world that we live in, where everybody cares about IP, I do get concerned when Amazon puts far more resources into the Rings of Power, because The Lord of the Rings is a far larger IP than The Wheel of Time. I think that's why we haven't been seeing much of a marketing push for season 3 of the show. Which is a real shame, because not only is this a very good show, but the season as a whole ends on some really exciting plot threads to set up a season 4 that I would love to see come to fruition in a 4th season. I just worry between the viewership numbers and then the fact that Amazon doesn't really want to push this show all that hard because they have the Rings of Power, if we're going to see the rest of the series, at least in a TV series form on Amazon Prime. The books are always going to be there. Once you get a chance, check out season 3 of The Wheel of Time. However, make sure you share your thoughts down below. What'd you think of the series? Did you like season 3? Did you not like season 3? Thank you guys, as always, sharing out videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure to like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.